Hello everybody, my name is Linh Ngọc Minh Khuê. But for today's video, what are we going to be looking about is about an example of our tracking expenses video. So after learning a lot about data visualizations and also about average and other different kinds of parts in finance, now for this video, let's conclude all of them up into one example of today's videos, which is about our track expenses. So now we're going to be keeping track on our three recent months expenses. So here is our raw data. And later in the video, we're going to transform it into different ways of that data visualization and then take that result and make a decisions into whether or not should we change or if we should do anything, etc. to our budget. So now let's look at our thing. First, on month one, we have food. We spend on total of $150. Transport is $50. Fun is $100. So fun is basically about entertainment, etc. So it could be like buying a book or like vacation, saving up for vacation, going to the theater, going to a movie, etc. So those could be fun. Month two, we have food is $200, transport is $40, fun is $120. And so we can see a lot of changes happening on this month, right? And on to month three, we have food is $180, transport is $60, and fun is $90. So now, this is our raw data, and now let's transform it into data sets. So first, we're going to be adding up onto the average of each categories of the 3 months. So we're going to be using average, and so we have 3 types of average, which are mean, median, and mod. And so we're going to be using one type of it here for today. And so now, first, we're going to calculate the average of food. So we have for the 4 month, we have is $150 plus $200 plus $180, and it is equal to 150 plus 200 equals 350 plus 180 equals to 530. So this is our total point to 430. So now we're going to divide it into 3, and so our total result will be $177. Next is on transportation. So we have 50 plus 40 equals 90 plus 60 equals to 115. So 115 divided by 3 equals to 50. So the average of transportation is $50. And on to fun, we have to add 100 plus 120 equals to 220 plus 90 equals to 210. And so when we divide it, it's going to be just roughly about $103. So now next, let's transform it into our ways of data visualizations. First, we always have is tally mark. It is a really clear and easy way to represent out these numbers. But I decided not to draw it on here because you can see our numbers are always from 50 to nearly 200. And so we are going to be drawing out 50 of those marks or 177 of those marks. It's not going to be a smart way, and it's also going to take a lot of time for you when you count it up, etc. So basically, tally mark just works with smaller numbers, and so it's better if we don't use it in these kind of situations. Next is onto frequency tables. We could easily graph them out with frequency tables because it was a really neat way. I just didn't draw it up on here, but you could imagine our frequency tables with different rows and different columns, and up on it here is information. So which, like, let's say on month 1, on here is the number of the months, and here is we have is like food, transportations, and fun. So that is basically how do we graph it out. Next, we have is diagram. diagrams. So diagrams could be used in a really fun and clear way in here, but sometimes it's not always working. So one thing that you could use is Carroll diagram, which works perfectly. Next, on to bar chart. So bar chart here is we're going to be showing out the average expenses of the 3 months. So now we're going to be drawing this. So up on here, on this column is going to be showing out the numbers, and on here is showing out the categories. And up on here you can see the bar, and it shows out the total number. So up on here is food is equals to 177. Transportation is $50, and fun is $103. So this roughly on how do we look at our thing. And so next and lastly is through pie chart. So pie chart you will see here. I'm sorry because it was like a little bit light. So you could look up on here, our first slice here. It is pretty big because it is about 177. So here is our part of 177. Based on ratio, you can see that this slice here of food is way much more bigger than transportation, right? Because transportation is only $50, and so on food is $177. And based on the ratios and angles, you could see that it does have a really big difference, right? And so that's basically on pie charts and bar graphs. Bar graphs, not bar charts, sorry. So now, how do these ways of handling data helps us with our decision making process? So let's say now upon here, we've got our knowing of the average amount of money that we spend each month. And so when we add it up, we could see it is about 200, it is roughly about $230. And so let's say our total allowance for a month is 250. So we only could have $20 onto our savings. And so if we want to have like our smarter way of budget because we have bigger goals or we have other things to spend on, then we could less down the amount of things that we could use, like slowly and gradually, not just like from food here from about $177 to $100 or $77. It's going to make a really, really intense job, and you won't be able to benefit from it. So let's say if I'm in this situation and I want to increase the money that I could save each month, and I could lessen down my food into, let's say, $160 on average. Fun could be less on like just $90, and transportation could be less into $40. So by that, how much we're going to save? On food, we're going to be saving about $70. On fun, we're going to save about $30. It's add up is going to be $30. And on transportation, we save another $10, which is $40. Add into our total savings here, we have is $60. And so that means we only spend $190 a month. And we have our saving each month is $60. And imagine how much will it add up in a year. It will help us a lot with our decision making process. Isn't that right? You got a clear understanding about it. You actually got into what are the biggest errors and what are things that you should improve or what are things that you should change for a better and more efficient way of tracking expenses. So after this video, we look at onto how does average and day of the top visualizations could help with personal finance and budgeting, right? Thank you so much for listening to my video about the topic of tracking expenses for my daily edition too. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.